G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildcard. Thank you for being here and follow my content. I really do appreciate it. You are here because it's Tuesday and it's time to read the news. So last week marked the start of the Rugby Women's World Cup and the Women's Rugby World Cup. And this was started off at Eden Park and this was a sold out crowd where the Black Ferns played the Wallaroos. I was hoping that maybe the Wallaroos would break the hoodoo for the men, but apparently not so. The New Zealand side beating the Wallaroos in the opening match. Also, 6 matches were played. Just quickly recap the results. France beat South Africa 40 points to 5. England beat Fiji 84 points to 19. New Zealand beat Australia 41 points to 17. USA lost to Italy 10 points to 22. Japan lost to Canada 5 points to 41. And Wales and Scotland had a pretty close match with a 3 points difference. Wales beating Scotland 18 points to 15. So the table here, New Zealand, Wales leading the pack in Pool A. Canada, Italy leading Pool B. England, France leading in Pool C for the Women's Rugby World Cup in the first week. So going into talking about the Rugby World Cup, the France Rugby World Cup that's coming up next year, there was a little bit of allegations of like toxic work environment essentially. So the essentially the labor, what do you call it? The French, like I guess the what is it? The labor department investigated into this, and as a result, the CEO for the 2023 Rugby World Cup, Claude Archer, has been fired. He was suspended in August already. Going into the investigations, and the results was reported by the French labor, labor department, is that the environment was the employees were bullied, the employees were suffering panic attacks and burned out. There was basically everybody was getting crunched super hard under his watch. So as a result, he got fired, and immediately they have replaced him with Julian Coletti as a CEO and Martin Nemecek as the deputy CEO for the 2023 Rugby World Cup organizers. So yeah, interesting stuff coming out of France there. Now also some really interesting stuff for the world of Rugby League and Rugby Union crosses over once again. The great Michael Cheika. So it's a bit of a story here actually. Michael Cheika, he was actually, I think he was born in Lebanon and moved to Australia with his family, and he played rugby league and played rugby union growing up. So he took up the job to coach the Lebanon Rugby League team for the Rugby League World Cup that was supposed to happen last year. But as a result of the pandemic, and also I think the Australian NRL, National Rugby League, has some like scheduling issues with the players due to their resting, like mandatory resting periods. So I think that something was basically from my understanding is that basically the players, if they went to the Rugby World Cup, they have to miss out the start of the season in 2022, and the Rugby League Australia just didn't think that was didn't want that to happen essentially, because the pandemic essentially so basically that combined with the pandemic, they pushed the Rugby League World Cup to this year, and as a result, Michael Cheika, he originally signed with basically he agreed to coach the Lebanon team before he had the gig with Argentina. So obviously things changed quite fast. The Argentina head coach Ledesma stepped down. He became the head coach. So now he's juggling between both the head coaching Argentina and Lebanon national team. So here's a bit of a time scheduling coming up as well. So with the Rugby League World Cup, it is looking at if Lebanon makes it to the quarterfinals, they're going to be playing most likely Australia on the 5th of November. And this will be on a Friday. This will be 2 days before the Argentina takes on England at Twickenham. So on the November 8th. So yeah, this is a really like tight scheduling for Cheika. And at this stage, Cheika is basically saying, hey, I will be honoring his agreement for coaching Lebanon. He does have some support staff that looks after the team if should he not able to attend some of these things. So Matt King will be helping him out, who was a former Warrington center, a Sydney Rooster hooker. Robbie Farah will be there. And also, what's his name? Jake Friend, will also formerly from the Sydney Roosters, will also be there helping out Cheika with the Lebanon team. So he has a lot of hand, and also I believe in Argentina they do have what is his name? Felipe Contempomi, as the assistant coach at Argentina, who is actually basically scheduled to take over the team after 2023, after Cheika. So both teams have some pretty good backups. I do think that they're going to be okay. Cheika will probably just be a bit busy attending a lot of different games throughout the week. But in overall, I do think that the teams are going to be okay. Also, the Irish team, let's quickly have a look at the results. So the Irish had an emerging Ireland team, went into South Africa for 3 matches against the local clubs. They came out undefeated over the 3-game series. They beaten the Greek. I actually looked this up before I started this video. The Greekuas. Anyway, they beaten the Greekias. I actually looked this up and I can't pronounce his name. Anyway, who cares? And then they're also beating the Pumas. And then the final game was against the Cheetahs, where they beat the Cheetahs 21 points to 14. So very impressive, but it did come with a bit of a controversy. So there was apparently a lot of stoppage, like intentional stoppage, in terms of fake injuries, essentially to slow the game down during a lot of these games. So the Cheetahs head coach Harvey's Fury came out, basically called out a lot of the stuff that the delayed tactics that the emerging Ireland team were, employing during his match against the Cheetahs, essentially. So one of the things he did point out was that the game went for 56 minutes in the first half because the Irish players keeps going down to take a break, essentially getting medic attention, and then also the game played almost 2 hours. So yeah, this was not happy by the coach. He did think that the World Rugby, they did add the water break officially to try to stop this sort of things, but it looked like the players just continues to do it anyway to get themselves some time for a bit of a breather when the team sees fit. So yeah, still a bit of an issue that the World Rugby needs to address, but nevertheless. So Elton Jantjies, the most controversial players in 2022 for the Springboks, he obviously has a bit of a lot of issues off the field. He had he basically had a damage in a plane when he was flying to South Africa, which had him basically in some trouble there. And then he also was recently alleged to have had an affair with the dietitian, which saw him and the dietitian being sent home. Basically dropped from the Springbok squad, and obviously had a really poor performance on his basically return to the Springboks, almost all the Springboks losing to Wales in that first test match. And as a result, he was fired essentially, or had his contract terminated by his Japanese League One club at the Urayasu D-Rocks. Basically terminated his contract as a result of some of these off-field issues that he was having. But luckily for him, there's some talks that the French club Toulon is showing interest for him to go to France. And as a result, yeah, he's potentially given a lifeline to continue his professional career in rugby. Yeah, so Jantjies. Another big talk in the rugby world for the South Africans is that, so basically Ulster came out and made a statement that they will be recruiting a prop that has, and I quote, a proven winner on the big stage. So they are recruiting essentially 2 props, a tight head and a loose head. It has to be reviewed that one of the props he recruited is the Scotland international British and Irish Lion, Rory Sutherland. And the second prop, it was not revealed who it was, but there's speculations that it's going to be Steven Kitshoff. Yeah, this Kitshoff is set to basically had his contract with the Stormers till 2024, but the club has given him the green light to leave the club should he want to after 2023 Rugby World Cup. So yeah, it's very likely that this is the guy that Ulster is talking about, and maybe it's Kitshoff. And it is revealed that he's in the advanced phase of negotiations with this prop, which most likely to be Steven Kitshoff. Next up, the All Blacks has announced their squad and also announced their All Blacks 15 team, the B team, announced the B team as well. So in the squad, pretty standard stuff. I do feel like the All Blacks 4-pack, let's just quickly go through it. So in the back line, Aaron Smith, Finlay Christie, the number 9s. Folau Fakatava, also number 9. I really want to highlight his name here because I thought he's like a huge prospect for the All Blacks in the future. The fact that he's not in the All Blacks B team shows that Fozzie has some confidence in him performing, but I do sort of want to see him get some game time in the B team instead of just not getting any game time at all for the A team. So yeah, Folau Fakatava as the 3 9s, Richie Mwonga the 10, Beauden Barrett 10, Stephen Perifetta a utility back. Again, Fozzie actually came out saying that he felt like Perifetta should have given a bit more time, but you know the inconsistency in the All Blacks performance really didn't give the coaches much leeway in terms of selections. So maybe in the November test series, we can see Perifetta a bit more time. He's a utility back in, play just about every position except the number 9. Yeah, I'm very excited to see him play and hopefully get some game time in the November. And not just against, games that the All Blacks definitely going to win. I'm really hoping for him to play a couple big test matches. David Havili for the center. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck also returning from the domestic league to the All Blacks in the center position. Rieko Ioane outside center. Anton Lennon-Brown returns from injury to the outside center position. It'll be interesting to see if they're going to put Anton Lennon-Brown on the field and how they're going to juggle with Rieko Ioane. There was also some talks that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck was playing on wing in his club rugby in New Zealand. So maybe, they're going to put him on the wing as well. I mean, you can never have too many wingers in the All Blacks squad, I guess. Speaking of utility, Brandon Ennor, also another utility guy, brought in for the center position. Jordie Barrett, also another utility guy that can play multiple positions, center and fullback, and maybe wing as well. Who knows, right? But there was a lot of people who wanted Jordie Barrett to be the permanent inside center option after his performance against the Wallabies in that Eden Park blowout. Also beating the Wallabies in their first test match by scoring the last try. Let's not forget. And so Jordie Barrett has been impressive for the center option as well for the All Blacks. Caleb Clark for the winger. Will Jordan, another winger option and / fullback option. Sever Reese, another winger. And Lester Fa'anga-Anuku returns for the All Blacks squad on the winger position. In the forwards, Somasani Takiaho, Cody Taylor, and Dan Coles rounds up the hooker position. Ethan de Groot, George Bauer, Terrell Lomax, Fletcher Newell, Ofa Tuunga Fasi, Nipola Olala round up the props. Sam Wailoka, Brody Retallick, Tupuva'ai, and Scotty Barrett round up the locks. Scotty Barrett also in the also plays 6 in the blind side flanker position. Sam Kang retains the captaincy. Artie Savia, the number 8. Shannon Fritzell, Akia Ioane, and Dalton Papali'i reserve Lucy's. And Hoskins Sotutu returns for the All Blacks as another additional Lucy for the All Blacks. So I do think the All Blacks 4-pack looking a little bit stale. Not sure. Fletcher Newell is only like newer kind of play. I mean, Ethan de Groot is pretty new as well. And Somasani Takiaho also had a new season as well. But in terms of like in terms of like, interesting. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on the All Blacks 4-pack. I do think that I do feel like the All Blacks, especially in the loose forward positions, maybe needed to shake it up a little bit more than what they're doing. Let me know your thoughts. But that's the All Black squad going into the November international tests. And obviously the All Blacks is has introduced the All Blacks B team to play Irish and the Irish B team and the and the Barbarians. So in the B team, there's a pretty strong team. With just go through some of the highlights quickly. So there's there's some basically some of the All Blacks players couldn't quite make the All Blacks team. Gets an opportunity here to kind of like build the depth for the All Blacks squad. So this team is basically selected by the All Blacks management, by Ian Foster, Joe Smith, and Jason Ryan, but it is coached by Leo McDonald, the Blues head coach. So some of the big names that's kind of being put into the team. So Tui Pelotu is the captain, I believe, for the B team. Aiden Ross, Angus Tarval gets dropped. Osafa Amua gets dropped. Luke Jacobson, it's in the team. TJ Perenara, again, huge names being in the B team. Brad Weber and Damien McKenzie. Ooh, he's probably going to get called up to the A team very soon, I feel like. I think the only reason he's here is just because he hasn't played in New Zealand for a while. He was in Japan for a bit of a sabbatical. And he had a bit of a... He did play a few games for the domestic... Not a few games. Did play quite a number of games now, actually, for the domestic team in New Zealand. And he's now in the B team. I do feel like the DMAC probably going to get a pretty quick call-up by the A team. So yeah, that's the All Blacks heading into the November Test series. We already talked about this. Tuivasa Sheck playing winger for North Harbour, and Fozzie says he's happy to see more players out of position. Essentially, long story short. So Nipolau Lala has signed an extension with the All Blacks to 2023. Another just one of those pieces of the puzzle the All Blacks really need, just experience and consistency, I guess, to some extent for the All Blacks props positions. I do think that Nipo Laulala's consistency is an issue. His performance for the Blues has been up and down. His performance, like some games he looks amazing, other games he's just, you barely notice that he's even there. And that it's also kind of a bit of an issue for him for the All Blacks as well. But still, that experience, that depth, the All Blacks definitely needs in that prop position. So there's some more talks in the Chiefs squad. So there's a few players being shuffled around for the Chiefs. They're losing a few players going overseas as well. But the latest news that came out is that Sean Stevenson is being looked at by the Dolphins for the Rugby League season next year. I mean, unless they pay you a lot of money, I would not go to the Dolphins because it's basically the Dolphins is a new team that's been introduced, and based on my understanding, the Rugby League, Rugby League, National Rugby League, NRL Australia has done a pretty poor job in setting up this team. Had basically left the team to dry a little bit, and they're basically scrambling to find players for the team. So Sean Stevenson, it's going to be targeted as a marquee signing for 2023. So I would not go unless you are getting a lot of money for some reason. But yeah, it's one of those things where, unfortunate, but it's the Dolphins has not been. It's based on reports, it's not really in a good position as a new franchise going into next year. So obviously Nigel, there was some Nigel Owens has been reported a while ago. It's basically like a, what do you call it? Like a, what do they call it? Independent referee selection panel. They're basically like head referees in the URC. So his job basically involves like reviewing the referees' performances and basically getting on conference calls with with URC referees after the matches to talk about the things that they made correctly, the things that they did wrong, and how they could improve. Just literal face-to-face coaching directly from Nigel Owens to the URC referees to bring some more consistency to the game. And one of the things that he kind of talks about in this interview is that he's noticing that the referees are not clamoring down, missing some of the issues that's happening in the lineouts, like players being thrown across, which is illegal, and also blocking the lineouts illegally to set up the maul is another thing that he's kind of already noticing. That's going to be talked about. in the review sessions with the referees, and the URC is looking to kind of like address those issues. I do think that this is actually a really good thing that the URC is doing. I do hope that the World Rugby introduces this to Test Rugby, having the referees being reviewed, being looked at. I don't know if they do this already. Maybe they do already, but just having something like this, the referee coming in on a weekly, a professional referee coming on a weekly basis to go through some of this stuff after the game. There's also some talks potentially having, the referees after test matches go to interviews, to have a post-match interview with the referees. I don't think that's good. I know a lot of people want that, but I do think that takes... I don't think that's good, because one thing is just like they're just going to get smashed, and it's just going to be really toxic for the referee to work with. And also, it takes away, like, we don't want the referee to get more spotlight, because you don't want after the match everybody's keen to, everybody's trying to interview the referee and nobody cares about the two teams that just play the game. We don't want to get in a situation where the referee gets the spotlight after the match for whatever reason, and also creates a toxic environment for the referees to have to answer to the media after the game. So there's some talks about that, but I personally think that's probably a bad idea. I do think that this is probably a much better idea, to have like a third independent referee to look at some of the issues and address them from like a third party point of perspective, and that will basically, they're not, it takes the load off the referees, and also they're not, they're basically indirectly addressing the fans as well, to let everybody know what's going on behind the scenes for the referees. So that's kind of good. Speaking of the referees, apparently, as the selection criteria of the referees in England is based on looks. Yes, apparently there was so basically this guy named George Richardson had basically come out and alleged that the referee selections in the RFU, which is the England union, basically alleged that the union has based some of those referee selections on body size, weight, or shape. So based on how they look. Okay, so apparently that's a thing. You have to be in a good looking shape to be selected. So basically, they as a result of this allegation, they went and interviewed a bunch of referees, and 9 referees, in addition to George Richardson, so 10 referees from England has confirmed that this is a part of the selection thing that is, that is being done in England. So although this is not like official selection criteria for referees in England, but it is apparently done behind the scenes to select referees for what do you call it? Yeah, English referees. And the RFU has come out and say, this is not acceptable. We are going to look into this and make sure that this does not happen going into the future. So the only criteria is obviously the fitness. You need to be fit enough to, to conduct the game over 2 hours in some matches. But, it's a little bit preposterous to think that you need to be in the, if you have a look at this, right? I always thought Luke Pearce is in great shape. Barnsley always in good shape. So, some of this English referee, Matthew Coley, he looks in good shape. There was one guy, this guy looked like he's in the gym. What's his name? This guy, he's the English referee. He looked like he's in the gym. He's about to, he's just finished off the gym. He's ripped. He's huge and ripped. What's his name? Yeah, Carl Dickinson. And, so maybe they do have some bias towards the looks, but I did notice something really interesting when I was looking at this article. The French referees, they all look the same. They all have the same body shape. So that's Matthew Renal, obviously, Jerome Garces. Who is this guy? I can't remember his name, but you can see all the French referees. Yeah, this is Romain Poit. Apparently that's how you pronounce his name. So yeah, the French referees, ironically, are all in the same body, have the same body shape, right? So maybe they also have like body shape selection criteria in France, maybe. But yeah, that is actually surprising to me how all the French referees look the same. But anyway, we never know. We're never gonna know. So a little bit more things. So Ben O'Keefe was in some interview talking about some of the processes of the referees. Kind of interesting read. You can go read it yourself. Essentially, he talks about how he actually prepares for games, and he basically has like a preview of the matches and tries to get himself, try to like understand how the teams play and look out for some of the areas could potentially be infringed as a result of the way teams play. So some interesting stuff to read here, but you can go look into that yourself. Next up, so yeah, obviously, Worcester is the rugby team in England, has gone under. Essentially, they're getting liquidated, and as a result, the team is immediately relegated. And yeah, so basically they had some debts they couldn't repay. There was some alleged fraud going on as well, that the owners basically stole a lot of money, essentially like had like false reports or hidden like financial losses, and pay themselves big bonuses essentially. So yeah, there's some pretty nasty stuff going on. But yeah, the team has been officially immediately relegated mid-season. Also, the bit of a good news for Australia. Tom Banks has returned to play for the Australian A team last week, and he's also going to be playing in the third final test against the Japan 15 on Friday. So he's made his injury return following a pretty nasty broken arm. And yeah, Tom Banks, a huge addition, will be going forward for the Wallabies. There's some also talks about the Wasps, the London Wasps, potentially be relegated as well due to similar issues with their finances. It is said that they had like $2 million unpaid taxes. They basically, yeah, they're also in some financial strife. They're looking for money to pay their the bills essentially. And yeah, if they can't pay their bills, they can't raise enough money to cover their financial obligations, they could potentially be relegated as well, just like the Warriors, the Worcester Warriors. So yeah, obviously, so there was another interesting kind of interview that came out last week. Pablo Matera, obviously there was an incident when the All Blacks played Argentina in the second test, and after the game, basically, everybody was shaking hands, and Pablo Matera didn't shake hands with Cole. Dan Coles didn't shake his hand and just like pushed him to the side. So there was a bit of a discussion in this interview as to what exactly happened. So Pablo Matera basically came out and said, some of the things that basically he was just upset about. So basically Coley came on and just came on the field. Coley is like a reserve. Coley came on like late. He only had like 10 minutes on the field. I just started like ripping into him, and he just got really upset because he just couldn't understand why Coley just kept on hammering him, despite the fact that he was only on the field for like 2 minutes, right? And he just like hammering him with his, his back chat, and he got really upset, and that's why he didn't shake his hand after the game. He did, say that he regretted it, that he felt like that was not a good example for the kids and for the game, but he was really upset that Coley just kept on ripping into him despite just coming onto the field. So yeah, he also talked about some of the things that I felt was a little bit disrespectful. One of the key things that he talked about, the only thing in fact he raised, was the fact that Coley was saying that, hey, you don't belong here, because he did play in New Zealand for the Crusaders for this year. So Coley was like, hey, you don't belong here. You're essentially this is the Crusaders. New Zealand is not the place for you, sort of thing. Being a bit of a xenophobic. So he did say that really upset him a little bit when Coley said that to him. But yeah, apparently he just got upset. Coley went a bit too far with his. We know that Coley is a bit of a mouthy kind of person. So yeah, that's what we're gonna say. So next up, Mako Vinopola has received his first red card and a reckless clean out for the Saracens on the weekend. So the first red card, and he's expecting to get banned for a dangerous clean out. And yeah, first one in his entire career. I thought for sure he would have had more, but yeah, that's just the way the law has been. You know, a lot of these things that considered red cards today would not be a red card even just a few years ago. Stuart Hogg came out in another interview last week, talked about some of the toxic stuff about the rugby. And in fact, he talked about how he was getting like a lot of toxicity from the fans, and he thought about quitting rugby at one point. Yeah, so you know, sometimes we tend to forget the players. We tend to think that the players are just, you know, immune to a lot of this stuff. And yeah, he genuinely talked about how, you know, he's struggled with that in his personal life. He felt like he's bringing that toxicity at home to his wife and kids. And he talks about, yeah, he talked about how he potentially wanted to get away from rugby, and due to the toxicity. Yeah, and also another thing kind of came out. So there was some speculations last week that Finn Russell was going to get replaced at, Rugby 92 by Beauden Barrett, no less. So Beauden is looking at finishing with the All Blacks after the 2023 World Cup. So there's some talks that potentially he's lining up with Rugby 92 to replace Finn Russell. But Finn Russell basically says that nothing has been settled. His agent has rushed into town to try to settle. Yeah, it has rushed into France to try to figure out the situation. But yeah, there's no confirmation as of yet. And in terms of Stuart Lancaster joining Rugby 92, a lot of people feels like that could be one of the reasons that he gets dropped or he gets let go. Because Lancaster and him has a bit of a, not like personal issues, but they have like clash in terms of style a little bit, in terms of coaching and the way. Yeah, anyway, they think that the personality could clash between the two. But basically, Finn Russell came out and addressed that, and he felt like, you know, he doesn't really know the guy, but he's happy to, you know, to work through any issues that could potentially arise due to when Lancaster arrives. Also, this is the big one. Dan Biggar has been let go by the Northampton Saints. And yeah, it's basically, he will be let go by the end of the year, is it? Yeah, at the end of the season. Basically due to financial constraints to the Northampton club. Yeah. Basically, there was a salary cap being introduced, and yeah, they're just financially not viable to continue his deal. So I think that's probably a nice way to put about it. But yeah, Dan Biggar, I have not watched his performance in the club rugby. Maybe they're just not getting the money worth from him. And yeah, he's been let go by the Northampton club. So I wonder where it's going to go. Maybe Japan. Will be interesting to see where he ends up. Dan Biggar is still a pretty huge name that's going to be available next year. World Rugby basically did a more study about like concussion. And basically they did a study on some ex-Scottish internationals and found that there's probably too much contact with the players, and has shown that a lot of these players are struggling with what they call a neurodegenerative disease and motor neuron disease. So yeah, the risk of the two diseases are significantly higher in some of these players, and as a result, the World Rugby actually issued to reduce more contact reduce physical contact in training, and also this of course to reduce the global calendar. I do think that maybe they should reduce the club rugby, limit players playtime in club rugby, and instead of reduce the international tests, because international tests are quite important. I do think that they should just reduce their club times instead of reducing the international global calendar. But yeah, some big changes potentially coming up for them. Finally, just to finish you off, so a couple of former All Black players is now eligible to play for their I guess nation of heritage. So what's his name? Stephen Lautua Stephen Luatua and Jeff Umanga Allen gets to play for Samoa going into the November Test Series against Italy, Georgia, and Romania. Both players have formerly played for New Zealand a long time in the past, had a bit of a run. So short, brief runs with the All Blacks. So both these guys will be eligible to play for Tonga going into the Rugby World Cup as well next year. And that is the news for this week, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Let me know any of your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, thank you for being here. Have a nice week. And see you guys next week. Cheers.